Do you like to improve yourself? Do you like to develop yourself? I do. There's a lot of people that do. A lot of people out there. I'm Mario Leone, and welcome to the Voices of Victory channel. Sunday, June 14th. Here I am with my coffee, getting ready for another episode. I'm going to guide you, lead you, and most of all, support you through this wonderful magic carpet ride. And today's episode is how we optimize our life too much. So we've been sold a story. We've been given the idea that if we just track enough numbers and buy enough wearables, that every single part of ourselves will be fixed in some way, shape, or form. That we'll finally be happy. We'll finally be at peace. But what this tends to do is put an endless stress that we have to optimize our lives left and right. And it's actually making us sick. It does indeed turn our days into a joyless, endless job, and it fills us with the anxiety that we will never be enough. And that's the thing, is that self-development is great and fantastic, and I'm all for it, but there is a concept of personal contentment or self-acceptance on top of that. So we have to look at what's happening around us, because it's happening around us all right now. People are exhausted. Even the biggest wellness conferences and health podcasters are starting to actually admit it. There is an obsession out there with constantly tracking and the biohacking, and it's all backfired. We are swimming in information, sleep scores, step counts, blood tests, but we have lost our connection to our own bodies, and we have difficulties sitting in our own emotions nowadays, let alone being bored. Boredom has become an issue, that when the brain is bored, it needs to be busy. And we believe that. We fall into that idea. And when we treat ourselves like machines that need to be hacked instead of actually living, we lose sight of the fact that we are breathing human beings, and we give away our inner peace and our self-trust for some digital score that we're trying to achieve. So when we constantly are endlessly tracking and comparing ourselves, it hits into a difficult cycle that repeats. So what happens? What happens when we do the very things we want to do to improve ourselves? Well, when we do it too much, we end up feeding our anxiety even more, because there's more burnout, more self-criticism, more anxiety. Yet, when we learn to grow and care for our minds and have self-acceptance, it can still be beautiful. It can be a very healthy thing. And science and psychology shows us that when we seek to understand ourselves better, we build an emotional strength, we build our confidence, and we build a strong sense of purpose. We need personal growth. It is a deep human need to learn, to feel, to become competent, and of course, to adapt. But the true solid growth is not about turning your life into an endless project with 20 or 30 different devices, treating yourself as an actual problem that you need to solve in some way, shape, or form. You are growing, shaping, and changing, but there is compassion as well. Having compassion for yourself is crucial. Having acceptance for yourself is crucial. And this is that small change that we are seeing today. It is a return to actual growth, and it starts with acceptance, the ability to accept who you are. It is warm, strong understanding that you are already good as you are right now, even with your flaws, and that you're just developing areas. That's all there is to it. So when we stop trying to fit perfection into our box of life and offer ourselves some compassion and awareness, and everything totally changes. So we begin to work with our nervous systems instead of constantly trying to push past it all the time. And we find those steps that are rooted right deeply into our actual values, that we have plenty of rest, we have boundaries, we have joy, and we do the things that actually sustain us, not just addict us. So the growth itself is important. So take a deep breath here for a moment, because the growth doesn't come from just pushing ourselves and breaking ourselves up into pieces. It comes from learning and listening to our bodies, calming our mind down, and having some genuine self-care for who you are. We don't need 70 tracking devices. We just need more compassion for ourselves, more kindness for ourselves, and more moments of just being in the moment, being in the process of the small habits that actually feel good in the moment, not the ones that lead to the addictions, the unhealthy escapisms, but the habits that actually support us and help us grow and learn. If we take a deep breath and we just pause for a moment, just for a moment, because at the end of the day, if you're ready to get off that whole entire hedonic treadmill of constantly needing to fix yourself, it's a good point in time to discover the warmer, more compassionate part of who you are and start to genuinely care about who you are and care about yourself. I want to be clear in saying that there's really no problem tracking information. The science actually supports that if we track the information, we can actually develop our habits better, and the science is in with that. But when we strap a wearable device to our wrist or clip it to our clothes, we think that we are just buying a tool to get us healthy. But without realizing it, we're really creating an invitation to all of the critics into our lives. And these devices, they translate the rich, mysterious reality of our bodies into the rigid numbers and the sleep scores and the step counts and the recovery percentages. And it's all in the name of being competitive and having competition. There is healthy competition, don't get me wrong, but the trouble begins when these numbers leave our own screens and enter the shared space of the world, which they do. Suddenly, our inner life is now public leaderboard, and we look at someone else's recovery score or their step count, and now something happens inside of us. We go into comparison culture. We begin to compare. We think, well, if they slept 8 hours and woke up, then I'm ready to conquer the day. Why am I so tired? Why am I so exhausted? Or if their fitness score is climbing, why is mine right where it is? And this is how wearables breed that unhealthy, silent competition. And you know what it does? It hooks into the deeper part of our conditioning and the fear that we are falling behind. And when that growth is reduced to just a metric, to just a number, it becomes a big fat external race. And we start pushing our bodies and forcing our bodies to meet a metric rather than actually listening to the recovery and what our body is actually telling us. So we push hard, and we push hard through the grueling workout because the app tells us that we're ready to do so. That readiness is actually high, and we ignore what our body is trying to tell us when we're absolutely exhausted, and we have to recognize through self-care what our recovery actually looks like, having a common sense foundation for recovery. Or we feel a wave of anxiety upon getting up in the morning simply because the screen tells us that our sleep was no good. And it's overriding the fact that we actually felt rested, even though maybe it's showing different. So in this state of comparison and the way things are today, we're losing touch with that solid truth. Your journey is not their journey, and their journey is not your journey. And I say this on the show more than once. So when we look deeply at that truth, we see it not as a fun, exciting, comforting phrase to make us feel better. It is a fundamental law of individuality. It is a fundamental law of nature because no two nervous systems are identical. No two lives carry the same damn history. No two lives carry the same ancestral upbringing. No two lives carry the same daily burdens or the same rhythms biologically. So to compare your data to someone else's is like a rose tree comparing its growth to an oak. And the oak grows real slow and it takes forever. But here's the thing, it takes decades to grow that oak. And if we take a look at the rose just bursts into color every single season. Neither is better, neither is more successful. They're simply unfolding according to what nature has designed them to do. It's real straightforward. I think we lose our way on that. So when you look at another person's journey, you are only seeing their outer journey. That being said, we don't always see the metrics that they display, and we also don't see what they're going through internally, emotionally. You don't know what fears they're navigating through. You don't know what burdens their nervous system is actually feeling, or what price they're actually paying. What's the cost of their high scores, right? Their path is totally designed exactly to what their soul and body needs in order to experience in this lifetime. So it's got nothing to do with you. So I want to put this in a deeper understanding for you, just so you understand. A deeper understanding of your own journey means understanding your internal authority and your individual aspect of who you are, your individuality, that you should honor your own uniqueness. It means recognizing that your body is a living, intelligent system. It's not a machine. Some people look at it that way. Some people use that as a metaphor or an analogy so they can tune themselves up as if it was some standard factory model. But here's the deal. You're going to have low energy. You're going to have certain days where there's just low energy on it. But it's a recognition. It's a point in time where you have to recognize to slow down, to take the time for recovery, and actually heal on the inside. That's what's important, because the true growth happens when we dump the leaderboard and the data and the statistics, and we start to go inward and get curious about where we can go and what we can actually do. Your journey is a beautiful path, but it's meant to be walked strictly at your own pace. And here's the deal. You have to have some sense of intuitive self-trust. Because if you step off track, when we step off the track of competition, we can finally stop trying to repair ourselves and actually truly live. And that's all I'm going to say. Have a great day. Take care. Don't forget to check out my YouTube and see me on Roku.